Hi everyone, welcome to Eco Convos with Dan. We had a great chat with Tom Kendall today. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. We talked everything from about permaculture through and his the work he's done with Geoff Lawton and Bill Mollison, and then we've actually gone through and talked more about what he's doing at the moment on his property here at Kendall Permaculture Farm. It was a fantastic chat, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of it as well. Tom and his wife Zaia have done an amazing amount of work at this place. It was great, just a wonderful chat. Anyway, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. I'll talk to you soon. Hi everyone, welcome to Eco Convos with Dan. I'm your host Dan Vanderhook, and we are here live with Tom Kendall from Kendall Permaculture Farm. Tom, thank you very much for coming along today. Well, coming along. Thanks for having us come along.
No, you're welcome. Yeah, great to have you here.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can have a good conversation. So.
Absolutely. So, mate, you've got a lot going on here. We've just had a bit of a wander around your property and had a tour through your veggie garden, your food forest, then through and had a look at the Syntropic farming. Then we've actually gone through and actually also a bit look at the swales and how you've set them up through the property. Mate, you've been here a little while.
Yeah, 16 years been on the property.
Yeah.
And it's been an evolution, which is great. That's I'm really into Bill Mollison's principles, and one of them is, and as you get more, I think you need a space to really get your hands into, and then because you need to accept the feedback and of what happens, and you create a space for nature to work, and then there's an evolution that comes with that, and that's where I'm learning. So I did my course, I did my PDC. And learnt my permaculture, read my books, watched the videos and stuff like that. But I'm really learning from this space. It's really teaching me because of the feedback. Yeah, and that's one of the other principles as well, is to accept feedback. And you need to allow that feedback to occur. Yeah, so and to pick it up. And so I'm becoming more relaxed into my space here. It took a fair bit to get happening.
Yeah.
In that time And I get very frustrated because there's so many things I want to do. There's nowhere on the property that I can't say. There's nowhere on the property that I wouldn't have a plan for to make changes, to make improvements, or to allow spaces for nature to do its thing. So that makes life interesting to do that. So
I was reading a thing with Charlie Arnott the other day, and he was talking about the natural evolution of this sort of job. It never stops. You know, it's you never actually finish a job that goes on. It's about actually continuing, and as everything evolves around it, it's not the job changes. It never finishes.
No, and the natural evolution of a forest is doing that. It's continually evolving, and I can't get my head around that. So the redwood forest, which we're all aware of, is like, wow, that redwood forest, and it's sad that it's being destroyed and whatever. But that isn't finished. It would be evolving to something else. Goodness know what that is. And so we always have that evolution coming in. And so this property is evolving all the time, and I've got to appreciate that, and so it can never be finished. And somewhere along the line, I've got to be able to relax myself and totally enjoy the fruits of the labours. And that's part of the evolution that I've got to allow happen here, is the succession of who's going to come in next and do that. Will it be my children? At this stage, I can't see that, which is frustrating. But that's another pattern we got to appreciate as well. Is usually skips a generation. Of what people do, how we function. You skip a generation, the grandkids come in, or the great grandkids, or the nephews, or the nieces, or something like that comes in. Or it might be someone from Italy or something like that. You have no idea.
So I think that's an interesting thing that you're starting to bring up. You've got a lot of help here as well. You got people coming on and volunteering and helping on the property, and you do your PDC courses here as well, and you have a lot of people, many hands sort of principle on here as well.
For sure, yeah. We've created. Some people could say it's a bit of a nightmare, a bit of a headache we create here because we're allowing so many different things to happen here.
Yeah.
And that's what I like.
A bit of chaos.
It's organised chaos.
Yeah.
Some people think it's chaotic, but it's actually what's in that forest over there in function. It's all these things, inputs and outputs. We really need to appreciate that. And that's what I would say, if I may say, that this place is different than a lot of other places. we do try and make those connections, and so I actually see the disconnections.
Yeah.
And so I say that's not working with that, so I've got to get them to connect it. So and which just creates more stuff to do. You know, Zaia's just as bad. She wants chickens, and we got chickens. She wants ducks and turkeys and pigs, and on it goes. Oh my goodness, how many hands on deck? So that and so we have more people come in, but they're here to learn, and because where else are they going to learn that? There's plenty of places to learn monoculture, which is proven to be a totally destructive method. So we're trying to show. It's not actually new stuff. You know, it was done. This property would have had diversity initially.
Yeah.
All the properties around here would have had diversity initially because you're providing. You know, there was less resources available, and now it's so easy for resources because we've just over-optimized fossil fuels, and we can have whatever we want whenever we want it, sort of thing. And then you've gone down the monoculture path, which is destroying everything. So,
right, but that's having your shops and for people to actually just be able to go out and buy the stuff rather than necessarily growing it themselves.
Yeah, it's easier, but then you have a full-time job to do it. So I don't know that it is easier. I'd go insane, and a lot of people are going insane because they got a full-time job in something they don't really want to do.
Yeah,
and they just don't know that they've fallen into a culture that's been created.
Yeah,
to have a 9-to-5 job, and
it's that culture of dependence.
Don't realise how dependent they've become on that. Yeah, we're very dependent on this system.
Yes.
But that's good.
I was dependence on outside sources and more. Yeah, stuff that you can't control.
Yeah,
you know, that's
and then you're not resilient. Yeah. So we're trying to create our resilience here, and in the whole time we're ending up we don't notice it probably so much that we live in paradise. I see things that got to be done, the things that are not being done, things that are going into chaos and by falling apart need maintenance and stuff like that. But we do live in a pretty nice space, and we're allowing that to evolve more and more. You know, some people say, "Oh, it's enough, stop," and we just keep planting more trees. And why some of that is because we're realising that we're getting hotter. Each season's a bit weird, but overall we feel like we're getting hotter. You know, there's enough indicators to saying things are getting hotter. So I'm feeling all out become, if you enter the tropics, think of somewhere in the tropics, you'd see lots of bigger trees, shade, and humidity and water and stuff like that. So I'll head in that direction, because it wants to do it. It's doing it all by itself. So.
So, mate, you've been here 16 years, and how big is the property?
I'll jump into acres.
Acres
there's
are good.
34 acres, but we're only really working with 10.
Okay.
So this is actually an ideal setup because we've got 20-odd acres above, and that's a regenerating forest. There's very little input happening into that. It wouldn't be what was here years and years ago.
I was about to say, is that natural?
It's natural, but obviously it went through a chaos event because it got totally cleared, and the whole hill right up to the top was cleared 60, 80 years ago, something like that. I don't know the specifics on that. And then it was bananas and pineapples and small crops and all that sort of thing. So imagine the chaos event that. And then so it's been allowed to go back into, would have been cows for a period of time, and then just regenerate into forest. And so we're letting that regenerate in its own way because I just don't have the energy for that. And it's doing it well. There's a bit of introduced species in there, but not too bad. And so it's doing that pretty well. Even if it was introduced species and doing it well, that's nature's happy. So.
That's right.
And then that system is above what we're working with. And then because that's a true sustainable system, because it's generating more energy than it consumes, that's bleeding into our system. So it's feeding our system. If it was the other way around, I'd be challenged, because if I was on top of the hill and all the forest was below me, I've got to get that energy up. And I'd have to use fossil fuels to do it. So that system's feeding this system. And I've got to monitor that I don't rape and pillage too much. So we're starting to sell some veggie boxes from the Syntropic and the garden, which is great. That we got to a productivity stage, not super productivity, and we're just onto that, and I've got to be careful that I don't export too much energy, because I'm only really relying on that system. We don't have many imports coming in, very little. We bring in some sawdust, a bit of chip, and there's some minerals and stuff for the animals and some stock feeds, but we try not to do that because that's the part of the problem. That's all fossil fuel made available to us.
So in terms of those exports, what sort of stuff are you putting out in those veggie boxes?
Some bananas.
Yep.
To put a bit of weight in the box.
Flush it out a little bit.
and bananas grow very easily here, so it's a lower maintenance. It needs maintenance, obviously, but lower maintenance product. And we get it pretty much all year round. We get bananas.
Yeah.
And then there's the greens. And now I don't do the boxes. It's actually Zaia and Fabio that are doing the boxes. I've created the system to keep feeding it, and I make sure that system's still part of that by energy flow, by the swales and water management.
Yep.
And then do veggie boxes. So there's 4 or 5 different greens in there. There'll be maybe some turmeric, some ginger, which grow pretty easily here, and maybe some fruits, a bit of cherry tomatoes and stuff like that. And I should know more other things going there, but yeah, that.
There's a collection of what's seasonal, what's growing, what's ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And the beauty of the Syntropic, we've moved into the Syntropic methodology because there's a lot of talk about it, and I had to check it out. Did a couple of courses on it with Tiago, and really appreciated it. And it's some people argue, permaculture, food forest, and Syntropic. I forget about all the names or whatever. It's a food forest, but it's much more designed, and it's really using that stratification, the light needs, form, and all that, and timing, and it comes back to Bill Mollison's principle of timing and management of your biological resources, and it's really critical to keep that timing going. And man, it pumps. It really, really pumps.
So I think that's a really interesting point. Is really the idea that everything's got their different names and everything's got the different titles and styles. There's no reason why they can't be working together.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They all fit together. Yeah,
that's right, and that's what you've got. You've got that real symbiosis here of being able to do that.
One thing I do want to mention about with the Syntropic, and I was talking when we were talking before, is about diversity, and Geoff Lawton's told me about how the diversity works, and that's what I explain in the PDC is that diversity gives you stability, and then you get fertility, and then from that you get productivity, and so we're in that. Done diversity, and we're doing more diversity, but the Syntropics is so diverse. It's amazing, and then you definitely got stability coming from that. We've got stability in our system. We got our fertility systems, and we got goats, and we got goat manure, cow manure, and chicken manure as the main ones. We want to bring more in, and then now I feel that the property's getting into the phase of productivity. So that's exciting for us because you've done all 16 years, but no external fertilizers coming in. There's no synthetics coming in at all. No chemicals coming in at all. And I aren't bringing in truckloads of manures and stuff like that. It's all created here. So in itself, it's come into that into the productivity stage. You can read it in many different ways. Like Victoria was saying, the ground's so soft and it's so moist here and whatever. But that's just the diversity and the ecology that's created. So
you've really built a microclimate and built that in here that it operates on its own.
Correct. However, this valley is a microclimate as well. There's unique things that happen, and some is detrimental. We have a lot of mold issues. So it is a humid valley anyhow, and got to appreciate that. It has its negatives, so I build an airy house so that we can keep the airflow so we don't get moulded in, sort of thing. That's part of the design there as well. But with that, it's going to go more to rainforesty, and any eucalypts you see around here, they've been planted. So there's brush box up at the top of the range up behind me there, and a couple of other eucalypts up there. Brush box is not classified as eucalypt, but it's very similar, of course. So it is meant to be rainforest. So appreciate that. It's a humid valley. Mangoes, we have trouble growing mangoes because they keep getting mould on them and they keep dropping their fruit. So don't grow more mangoes. Grow something that's
going to work.
Yeah, and what can we move towards nearer to the tropics and rainforesty type plants? Water is a handicap for us. Our dam leaks. This is got high shale soils here, so it's really hard to get dams to seal. So that's always a bit of an ongoing thing. I don't have quite enough water. We're in a higher rainfall area, so we just got to hopefully that works. And with all the swale management, hopefully, and all the accumulation more organic matter, we don't need so much rain. So
that's right, and you've slowed that water down so that it's going to soak and it's going to constantly hydrate your ground when it comes. water management is always going to be a key issue for every property.
Agreed. Yeah, and I really harp on a bit about the water management because one of the major movers of fertility is water.
Yeah.
So if you're managing your water flow through that hydration process, swales, whatever they might be, then you're directing your fertility where you want it, not off the property. So when I go and do a consultation, it's what I'm looking for. That's what I see when I see properties is where are you losing energy? And if you're losing energy, you got to find energy from somewhere else. And usually it's fossil fuels, which is causing big problems. And it also makes you non-resilient because if that supply stream breaks, you're in big chaos. So how do you recognise where your fertility is going, which is usually by water?
Yep.
Then can you harvest that? Can you manage that? Can you redirect that without over impacting on the space? And but get it right. So earthworks is the first thing you really look at and get it right. And then when I do a consult, that's the main things I'm working on. I don't get into all the little fiddly details because that's your path, the landowner's path of where they're going to end up, and I don't know that. I've only met them for a very short period of time, and I'm making all these assumptions. So let's just get the main frame in right, and then allow yourself and the system to evolve, and you put in those little details later. And I can give encouragement later on, advice and stuff on that later, but initially just get your main frame right. And that's the area. I read landscapes. I'm always looking at landscapes. Whenever I'm travelling around, I'm looking at landscapes and seeing where things are, put the house in the wrong spot there, mate. You should have done it. Yeah. See that all the time.
So I mean, that's something you do. You do consults. You come out
for sure.
Help people out for those.
Yeah, and I enjoy that. I really enjoy that. And when I'm doing that, I'm learning more. I'm always learning more because you're seeing different soil types. You're seeing different landscapes. You're seeing different cultures. Even different towns have a different culture. So you've got to appreciate that. And then so then there's your if you get into a surplus stage and you can sell some product, well then you need to have a product that the locals are going to consume, not something that's not. Or you got to try and re-educate the locals to do that. And that's another thing that we're doing as well is we can't grow grain here. It's just not suitable. We don't have enough space. Don't have the right grain at the right time of year and to do grains, and so we don't grow grains and we don't consume grains. We minimise our grain consumption. So what's the solution? What's the replacement? And we do cassava flour, we do yam flour, we do sweet potatoes, cocoa yams. I really like the cocoa. We haven't done much with the cocoa yams, as in the flour. We just eat the tuber. But they're getting very productive. We really like them. They need a bit more water, but not as much as taro. So yeah. And getting attacked by
the silky oak dropped it.
So that's a lot of the direction that's dictated to us really by the system.
So we were talking before about the idea of the whole import export idea that you've got going on through here is the energy in and energy out, but also it's also moving into what you're adding, fertilizers, manures, and how that's all working out, and what's going into the property as opposed to what's going out.
It was really in my PDC when I Geoff Lawton and Bill Mollison were my main teachers, and Greg Nibbs as well down in Melbourne. And one of the things that Bill said is his grandfather told me you should, when you're selling stuff off your property, so produce off the property, you should be able to walk off the property. So that's back in the era where you walked it down wherever to market or whatever. And I go, well, what's that about? And so once your animal gets up to size, it just cycles nutrient. But plants, you sell the plant, you're selling 100% nutrient every time. So and it grows in your annuals, usually an annual that you're selling or fruits or whatever. And so that's exporting. So so that's important. That Bill says things and you go, what's that all about? He doesn't fully explain, and it makes you think, and that's what we need to do. And you think, so yes, we are selling veggie boxes, so I've got to be really careful because I'm selling 100% nutrition off the property, fertility off the property.
Yes.
And so we want to actually, Zaia's talking about, can we convert that into animal and then sell animals off the property, because that's what Bill says we should do. So you can choose either which way, you have choice, but there's an important point in that you really think about, so where's your fertility going to replace from?
Yes.
And I was saying about in Vanuatu, they slash and burn to grow yams. So I'm trying to learn how do you grow yams without slashing and burning. Because their fertility bank is getting less and less and less.
Yeah.
And they don't see that. They don't notice that. Yeah.
Well, it's going to happen slowly over time, but the problem is as it happens, it's going to...
Then it'll be exponential crash. Yeah. The system will crash to the point where they're clearing whole hills of layered forest to grow peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that rainfall. So there goes their fertility just screaming.
Straight away.
Yeah, screaming. Just so they can have a cash crop. So,
Yeah.
And that's not ideal.
Well, once again, that's so the idea of industrialising, industrialised agriculture is really going through and taking over the landscape.
Absolutely. Yeah, industrial agriculture has been well proven to totally destroy soils. It's been proven many, many times. You see, I'm pointed out around the hill, it's just linear industrial agriculture just destroy. It's been proven. Why keep doing it? Let's do something different. Let's go back. And some of it's the old system, some of it's new. Syntropic's new.
Yeah.
It would have been done in some form somewhere along the line.
Didn't have a name.
And not on a scale. So Syntropic's been designed a bit more on a scale. So you can do it in a couple of meters square, or you can do it on 1,000 acres. It's just giving you that scale of how you want to do that.
Yeah.
And some guys in Australia are grabbing onto that and doing that. And there's variations in how to do that, and that's fine. That's fine. We need to be able to suit each one to each applicable situation, property, market.
So I think it seems to be. I mean, I'm having this conversation with a lot of people, and it's from people who are doing your larger scale stuff through to your small scale. And what seems to be happening is the idea that these different methods that are going through and actually rejuvenating the area, rejuvenating the land, rejuvenating the soil, it's putting things back the way they were. They're still being productive, and in some cases, uber productive.
Absolutely, yeah.
We don't need to be going through these methods of adding these fertilizers, adding these poisons, putting this in, stripping the land to be productive. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. It doesn't keep on working, does it?
The science is there that as soon as you put on synthetic fertilizer, your soil becomes less fertile because it locks stuff up. Why do it in the first place? Why? It just doesn't make sense. And then,
but that's what Dad used to do. That's what Granddad did.
Yeah,
and that's the problem. That generational side of things.
Yeah, and then you have to go up in the scale, and that's destroys community. So you buy up the neighbour's farm, and you buy up another neighbour's farm, and you buy up another neighbour's farm, and there goes your community. That's really sad.
Absolutely.
And a community is really important. So there's quite a lot of stories of people that are getting into the diversity. There's one podcast, and I can't find it again, of a guy in the US, and I'll get some of this detail wrong, but and so don't quote me on it. But he's got something like 6,000 acres, and the local town has 50 people living in the town. And on that 6,000 acres, because he's got so much diversity and value adding, he employs 150 people.
Wow.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah.
You go figure. That's amazing. That's incredible.
Huge.
That's just I was blown away with that. And so we need to turn that all around instead, because what you find is you buy the neighbour up, buy the neighbour up, buy the neighbour, and then there's no one left in the village. So you get a car that can travel further to go to the next bigger town, and that's getting smaller and smaller as well. So that's monoculture.
Yeah.
It's just doing all that. So let's get back into the community and value add in that small thing and get more people and more community happening and a local economy happening. It's a win-win every which way.
And it just makes perfect sense.
And the ecology, even though it's not going to be a wilderness ecology, it's a biodiversity with us amongst it, is improving and improving. And it's a healthy place to be. Clean water, clean food, beautiful shelter, great community. That's all you need. That's true wealth. So,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's wealth, and that's not creating any external dependence on different things as well. It's requiring that everything you require is there, and the people who are there are being looked after as well.
The regen, it's another word, regenerative agriculture, regenerative grazing, and I'm okay with that being another word. It's fantastic to see that happening. It really is, and a lot of people will get on board. They'll have to. The ones that won't will be the ones that have huge scale, and they don't care, because they're making $1 over that whole lot. But if you don't get onto the regen agri thing and get your ecology up to provide your productivity, you'll go broke because the other guys are going to start making good money on that. So so if you're going to lose the game. And that's really, really cool. And I really like that. I need some more stats on some of that. guys had been doing the regen, which is what I would have been doing in Western Australia if I still had that property over there, because I would have been 20 years, more than 20 years in it, nearly 30 years into that, doing that organic farming.
You say you're doing
biodynamics on 7,000 acres.
Yeah.
They've found that they've started with 100% cleared doing monoculture, and they've converted over into doing regenerative, whatever it might be, in whatever form, and they've gone to 20% of the spaces treed. It could be timber lot as well, but it could be just be natives, and particularly if you're going to do it in harmony with the landscape biocontour work and maybe some earthwork and management of that, 20% of cover, so they're not got less land, only 80% land to be productive. They're actually making more productivity from that.
More productive.
With that than they were before, and it's improving and improving and improving, and not degenerating to the point that they've got to buy another property to survive. And so there's comes back to your community. It's amazing.
Well, that's just your perfect case study of how it works and why the hell aren't everyone doing it?
Yeah. It's just got to shake people out of that. We're doing the veggie boxes and it's great, but we have to remind people to order your veggie box because they're so conditioned. I'm in town. I'll go to the shop.
Just run to the shop.
Yeah.
And that's a habit I fall into as well. And it's every time I do it, you just, damn it, you just start kicking yourself. And it's a nasty habit.
It is a habit, and so you got to create a new habit, and that's a really beautiful pattern. And I've learned that the most from my cows. If I've got to shift the position of the cows, because I have positions in the cow yard each night, in the morning and the night that we're working with them. If you've got to change the position, you've got to think about it for probably about 4 weeks of how am I going to change this? Because, okay, I've got a calf that's got to change, I've got to wean that or get that out or bring another cow. Or whatever. And then when I actually do make the change, so I'm changing positions, it takes 3 weeks for that cow to know to go to that position without getting in trouble. So it's just because it's used to going to this, because it got in trouble if it didn't go to this position. Get in your position sort of thing. I don't get angry all the time, but they love that. They creatures of habit like we are mammals, and so it takes 3 weeks to do that. But if they learn to get away from me once, they'll do it again the next day. So it's the same as us. If I go to get some fuel at the service station, and I'll buy a cherry ripe. The next time I'll buy a cherry ripe, and it takes me 3 weeks. Don't buy a cherry ripe. Don't buy a cherry ripe. Don't buy a cherry ripe before I've stopped buying, because it takes longer to create that new habit. So that's
a psychological principle too. The three week habit is a thing.
It is
a specific thing.
And it's the cows that taught me that.
That's unreal.
They'll go through this phase. They'll have it for a few days, and then they'll go back to the other one. They go, no, get over there, new one. Oh, okay. And then they're right, and they're relaxed. I know where to go. I'm standing here. Clip the chain on. And I'm relaxed. And
once again, everything's working in
harmony
as well.
And that's routine. Create a routine. Make sure I stay with the routine. Try and be there at the same time each day. Yeah. And then you're fitting in harmony with the species.
Yeah. So, you've set up so many different systems here as well, and how things are working, how things are going. One of the interesting ones that we had a little bit of a look at, and make sure you check out the video, was you've got your biogas.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the biogas system, and then how, essentially how that's working through your property as well?
It's actually interesting feedback on that biodigester. So it's something I saw. I don't know. I was pretty young, maybe 10 or 12 years old, something like that. I saw a film, because it was back to the film back then.
Film.
I'm that old. And I can't exactly remember where it was, but anyhow, it was somewhere in Africa, and there was something, and they put cow manure, and there's this funny little hose going into the window of the mud hut, the thatched roof, and they were burning. And that's a long time ago. That's a really long time ago. And that was the first inkling I got of that, and I don't know that it was anaerobic or what. I know just this. I couldn't see the whole function. And then Bill Mollison's, I've forgotten the name of his 4-part series of videos that they were on ABC or something like that. Sorry, I've forgotten the name of them. But on that,
we'll look it up, and we'll pop it in the story notes.
Great,
as
cool.
Well.
Usually it jumps in my head pretty quick. Anyhow, he comes out of this toilet. And he says, I've made my deposit. I'm allowed to go and have a hot cup of tea now. And so he pooped into a biodigester, which is part of the cow biodigester thing there. And go, I'm going to do that because I have the facility. I have the cows. I'm bringing them every night. I need the manure. So here I've got this clean manure. I might as well put it through a biodigester because I've gone on concrete. So 1 + 1, I can do that. And that's how I actually function. I have a duty this is in front of
This
me.
is what-
I have a duty. I need to do that. That's one of my who I am sort of thing.
Yeah.
From a child, I have a responsibility to do something. And so
It stops it becoming a chore, and once again it becomes a habit. These are the things. This is just what I do.
it's just something that we need to do, and
Yeah.
and it's also who I am as well. It's interesting. We were digging the hole to start doing the biodigester. Hopefully, I can remember the rest of the story. And Geoff Lawton turned up, and he actually parked very close to where we were. Had another guy helping us doing the digging and stuff. And he goes, "What are you doing?" And he he looked at me. "What are you doing?" He looked at it, and he looked at me. He says, "You're building a biodigester. You're keen." And I'm going, my head's going, "Shit, what's he mean?"
Yeah.
And he looked at me
What have I
again
got
and
myself
says,
into?
"You be right." And you go, "Right, what did he just say then?" Because that there was the whole big message in there, and he realised that I'm predictable. I will do it. I'll put it in front of me, and it'll do that. Yeah. And so at every day since then, that biodigester, and that's 6 years that's been fed there.
Yeah.
And it gives us gas. So that's the story. Yeah.
So it gives you gas. What happens to the product as it goes down the line further?
Rightio. So you're inputting 30 kilos a day with water.
Yep.
And so there's a space. Something's got to come out the other side. You get the gas, but you still have a volume come out.
Yep.
And that has been possibly more energy value than the gas.
Okay.
Really, because we get that we have to process it. We've got to dehydrate it basically. So we call it the BDCC, biodigester chicken compost. We take it to the chickens and get them to scratch through it, and they help to dehydrate it, and they also stop the weeds starting to grow into it as well, because it's in there for about 23 days that the chickens process it. We move it in 4 spots in there to help dehydrate. We pile it up, chickens scratch it down, pile it, scratch it down. And so then every Tuesday, so there's a whole strategy with that. So Monday's empty the biodigester pit. And Tuesday we got to move the compost that's there, and it's about 3.5 wheelbarrow loads that we get every Tuesday.
Yeah.
So there's our main fertility system, and that's got to be processed. And don't make a bigger space to stockpile it.
Yep.
Because once that's getting full, you got to start gardening. So there's a push there. Yeah. And then so that's our main fertility source, and we put some diversity into that as it goes through that system, which is explained on videos on our website. Yep. And so that's a main feed there, and then there's also beside that, because the cows, we have to have this clean manure, so the cows stay on the concrete, so they urinate on there, and then that needs to be filtered, because a bit of feces will come with it, and a bit of grass and dirt or sometimes occasionally comes down there, so that needs to be filtered. 2 filtrations. With the coarse filter, we need some chip, so we'd feed the goats forage every day, because they're not meant to live on grass, so they get to have access to grass, but we got to give them forage as well, which is tree waste, which manages our tree systems, because I'd never get around to manage them. So every day, and there's about 5 species of vegetation we give them per week. So each day is nominated. We give them ice cream bean on Mondays and ice cream bean on Thursdays and bamboo on whatever. And so that waste that they don't eat, we chip it. And that goes into the filtration system, the coarse filtration system, which ends up in the BDCC, with the biodigestic chicken compost. Yep. So that's got that diversity. It's got legumes in there, it's got bamboo in there, it's got guavas in there, whatever species that needs to be managed on the property. Yeah. And so this biodigester has just suddenly become a bit of the hub of the whole system.
Everything's working around it. That's fantastic.
And why did I end up with the biodigester? Well, I needed some fertility, so I thought I'd get a cow, because with that biodynamic background, cow manure is pretty important with the biodynamics. It seems to have a capacity in its diversity of gut ecology of the cow is so diverse, and so you get this beautiful manure. And so, and then we're going to get a cow. Well, I'll get a dairy cow, because then we can have cream and butter and milk. And so then that started that whole system up. So, we're a bit disappointed at the moment we don't have fresh cream, because we're not milking. But another couple of weeks we'll be milking again. So.
That's fantastic. And just the story of how it's all grown and how it's all evolved, and where a need's popped up. Well, we're going to do this in a way to fill that. I mean, that's incredibly satisfying. It has to be incredibly satisfying.
There's a fair bit of frustration, because the ideas you can have every day, but it might take 3 years before I can implement that idea, because I need the resources to time. It's the biggest one, and we get labour coming in, if I may call it labour, the volunteers learning and stuff, but it's unskilled, and so I can't just go and get them to go and do that, because they just don't know what they're doing, and so I have to direct that, and I'm busy doing lots of other things as well. So we always got that hold up on the resource, which is time and whatever materials we need to do it. But that's a good thing because you get to do a lot of study thinking of how you're going to implement that.
Yeah.
And so, so you're thinking ahead, you're thinking, well, how's it going to connect with that? And so then the design keeps getting altered a little bit because, hang about, that's going to connect with that, or that's going to cause a problem with that. So that's going to be a waste. Where does that waste go? So you keep thinking about that. So it's not a bad thing that it takes on. And really, I'm here for however many years I'm going to be here. It's a journey. I don't want it all done in the first 2 years, and then what am I going to do the rest of the time?
You're going to do it.
Yeah. So got to enjoy the journey, and that's the learning thing. And then with that learning, I have a little bit more capacity to help others set up their systems because I've got that over a period of time learning and study that I don't even know I'm doing, but it's just part of how
you're absorbing the information as it comes along. And But it's really exciting. So your courses, I think we've got to start getting to the point of wrapping up because I could talk to you for days, I think. But in terms of how people can get in touch with you, because you do run your PDC courses.
Yeah, we got one coming up at the end of the month, actually. End of I'm not sure when this podcast comes out, but end of August.
End of August, but and you've got all the information on your website.
Definitely on the website. Yeah.
So what is the website?
PermEco.org.
PermEco.org. Okay.
Yeah. So PermEco is our not-for-profit charity.
Yep.
And so it's an organisation that Zaia and I run, and with that we're endeavouring to do a lot. We're out doing some monitoring on the station up near Charters Towers way at the moment because the regenerative grazing side of things is not being monitored. These guys are very busy being graziers and they're not monitoring. They're making some great improvements in management and behaviour of the landowner.
Yep.
So we're monitoring that. So PermEco is doing that. And so that's our entity. So if you find PermEco.org on the website, and check that out. There's a whole heaps of information.
It's a full website.
Zaia's put a lot of stuff
on there.
She was pretty incredible with that side of things.
Yeah.
And so that's the body we run under. So we do PDCs. We've got an online PDC, the Permaculture Design course online, and that's really, really good. We're really excited about that one because we've got even a guy at the moment in Botswana is doing that, and he wants to. We're financed by donation. We try and make it information available to as many as we can, and there's a lot of people he can't afford to fund us to give him the information, but that's fine because he's teaching the community with that information.
So he's spreading that.
Spreading that. Yeah, and there's plenty of stories of that happening.
So wealth in knowledge, not necessarily wealth in money, and that's a beautiful thing what you're doing.
It is, and we're actually very comfortable with that. We actually getting better appreciation, and instead of having this contract of the course is going to cost this much, and then after the course I've delivered, you've paid, bye.
We're done.
And that's the culture of the Western society. That not always happens like that, but it seems to feel that way. Now we've got this ongoing relationship with it by donation. We've got this ongoing because there's no final payment. There's no.
Yes.
It's an ongoing thing, and we want that ongoing. That's community. We got to get that online community.
Community once again is that important word.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then you got resilience with that because you got people to back you up. And I'm starting. We're starting to get a local community, which we weren't before because we're mostly teaching backpackers.
Yeah.
That obviously that's fallen over lately, but so we're actually getting more local people involved, and so we're getting that ongoing interaction locally.
Yeah.
And that feels good to have that because most of our friends are our students, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing. Yeah.
No. And once again, that brings back people you were saying before about one of your past students bought himself a wood chipper, so he came back and was doing some wood chipping work. So you're still working with each other and whatnot as well. Yeah,
whether he thinks he still owes us from the course or whether I don't know. That's not our. We don't have an arrangement in that way. Yeah. It's just like he said, I've got this chipper. You want to use it? Oh, okay, we'll check it out. And I can see the chip down the paddock there now, which is wow, what a resource, and then we'll share it back in some other way or connect him with other guys and things. And
that's that paying it forward. Everyone helps each other. That's the basis of community.
Yeah. Just get away from this dollar value of things. If you've got plenty of resources to share, well then others can share their energy with you, sort of thing. That's where we want to go. So very pleased to be evolved into PermEco. We were Permaculture Research Institute Sunshine Coast under Geoff's guidance, and we felt that was limited, and we wanted to expand that more. So we went to PermEco, which is permanently productive ecosystems, which I've grabbed that from Bill's definition of which one is it? It's not sustainability one, but it's on the back of the manual. Sorry, it's his definition of how things should be, and it's ecosystems. I saw a post the other day about we need to create ecosystems, and I find that really interesting, because in monoculture, when you see these videos of a harvester going across this wheat field, and you can't consider that as an ecosystem. It is, but it's really boring.
It's not
and the main species there are the pests. Because there's no balance in that system. And so we got to get into harmony of being productivity for our existence within functional ecosystems that are balanced, and then all the bad pests are suppressed. And the strong pests come up. And
once again, that was you were showing that with your Syntropic plantings. How there's basically no evidence of any sort of bugs getting in, eating the plants or anything like that. It was quite amazing.
Yeah, and the other day we were down there, and there's I'm pretty sure it was a mango, I can't remember, but there's lots of the cabbage moth. I just saw one a second ago, but they're not doing much.
No. They're not doing the damage because it's all there.
Yeah, and obviously, well, that's what I learned with biodynamics. If you've got a healthy plant, actually, we looked at it the other way. You had an unhealthy plant, nature threw all these bugs at it to get rid of it, because you don't want that plant. It's unhealthy. You want to get rid of it. You don't want something to eat it because it's going to get sick. And people would spray it and whatever and then eat it. Double sick, Yeah, so obviously there's a balance in. We've allowed a balance to occur. The Syntropics, I think, is a great tool to get that balance in because of the diversity. Diversity is so key in that. But an understanding of the diversity to get the stratification and the timing and everything right, and the light needs, and it's all really important. To get there.
Tom, this has been absolutely fantastic, mate, and I really do appreciate that. Unfortunately, I've got to keep it ticking along. Mate, I'll go through and do 6 and 60, so 6 quick fire questions.
Here we go.
So you said before you may not be able to get them in 60 seconds, but mate, we'll see how we go.
Give it a shot.
Okay. Mate, what's a personal habit that contributes to your success?
See, I want to just talk about success. What is success?
Mate, you could add to a whole thesis on that. So,
but I think I mentioned
where you are now.
I think I mentioned before. I have a sense of duty and responsibility. There's something put in front of me, I've got to do it. Whether I'm going to get it, I can plenty of stories as a kid. I was doing things that never got any payment for, but it had to be done. Things needed to be done, and you just did it. And so I see that. Someone says this needs to happen, okay, I'll do it, sort of thing.
It's akin to the idea of you see a piece of rubbish on the ground, so you pick it up.
Yeah. That it's just to have a sense of responsibility. And so then and be consistent with that as well. That's probably for who I am. Yeah.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Actually, that's a tricky one. I was trying to think about that before. I don't know. I'm not sure on that one.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's all right. Yeah. What's the one thing you're most fired up about today? You can narrow it down to one.
Well, the Syntropic is, and it's not Syntropic. Everything's got to be Syntropic. It's the diversity. So it's the diversity. So Zaia and I talk about it a lot. Diversity. Yeah. We just, it's such a small word in Bill's principles. Such a small word. Diversity, but it is so integral, whatever it is, for things to function. And you really, it's taken me a long time to appreciate that. I've done it a bit, but probably a little bit here and there. Whereas now I'm just going, you've got to go the whole way. There's probably not correct statistics. It's about that. The species we were talking about before, the bad species. Apparently, I read it's a while ago now, and I don't know where that information is, but for every one bad, if I use the word bad species, like the detrimental species, there's 20,000 good ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so what the hell have we done to make the one prominent?
Yes.
We've done a lot of damage because 20,000 have been suppressed, and the bad ones come to the top, and so we need that 20,000 diversity to get things in balance.
Balance it out
Yeah,
again.
and so that was great information for me
Yeah.
because I didn't realize that, whether it's bacteria or fungi or whatever, there'd be different figures for that.
Hmm.
So so diversity is key. So we just don't know what it is. I remember reading that book. Sorry, I've lost the name of that book. I remember where I read it. I always read on the toilet.
Good.
But it's
all the best books are.
about how important certain species are. So you take out a major predator species, and the situation was where it was on the edge of water and water and land, and is unique. Many people have studied it, and they thought, wow, this is an amazing ecology here. So let's have an experiment. And they took out the major predator, which was the starfish.
Yeah.
They took that out, and I'm thinking, as I'm reading, I'm thinking, well, you're going to have a proliferation of this, and you're going to have a proliferation of that, and whatever, because you've taken out the major predator, which is suppressing everything. And they lost 8 species.
Yeah, wow.
And then the other story is reintroducing the wolves into Yellowstone National Park, and everything's flourished. So there's a major predator. So every time you don't allow a species into your system, how many others aren't you allowing in? Every time you push a species out of your system, how many are you taking out?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so diversity's key. You keep throwing it at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. If you could recommend one book or podcast, what would it be?
You hear me harping on it a lot. It's not, it's Bill Mollison's Introduction to Permaculture, and it's chapter 1. Yeah. It's about Bill's principles. I find them I'm a practical person, and I find them ... one connects to the next to the next to the next. And whenever I'm teaching or talking to people, if someone's interested in permaculture, get Bill Mollison's Introduction to Permaculture and read chapter 1 and try and grasp that.
The thing is, it makes sense, but there's so much in it.
There is. Yeah, he's only got 11 those basic principles, and people say these other principles and all that sort of thing. That's great. Yeah, cool. But for me, it was that
those core principles.
Yeah, and I in an introduction to permaculture, I'll nail them.
Yeah.
And if people get that, then they're on their journey. And I'm sorry, you're on your journey. You can't stop.
That's right. You just keep on going.
Yeah.
All right. So what personal goals are you hoping to achieve in the next 12 months?
Just mainly in this space is try and get a bit more done on the house. I haven't done anything else the house for a bit because
Keep getting distracted in the garden.
Yeah, other things come into the priority list. We're comfortable, but we're not cozy.
Yeah.
That would be nice. Yeah, and just the property things, which is always ongoing, because I want to be really comfortable by the time I'm 80.
Yes.
And so each year I've got to move towards that. I've done the basics. There's other swales and stuff that need to come in, whatever. But each one is going to that. So that's probably it. But I guess another one is I want to get a bit more involved local community, and that would be nice to have that. And there's a couple of with PermEco, with the readjustment of the not-for-profit, we've opened up the opportunity to do that, and we put energy into that with community groups, and it'd be great if we can make headway in that. And there's a few doorways being opened there, and
that's good.
And pretty excited about that actually.
Yeah.
Where it's going to, be careful what you ask for.
Yes.
Not sure where it's going to end up.
Might end up busier than ever been.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yep.
As long as it's functional. Yeah. I'm all about functionality. So yeah.
Perfect. Mate, last question, which is a mystery question. What do you think about when you're alone in the car?
It's actually a bit of my relaxed time.
A
bit of everything. Yeah. It's my. Because when you're on the property, you're busy with this, and you can just see that's got to happen and that's got to happen, whatever. But when I'm driving, actually, Zaia and myself have some very structured conversations when we're driving. Yeah. And we just travelled to Western Australia and back in the old Rodeo, and we nailed a few things on that trip. Yeah. So it's probably I'm out of this system, which absorbs me a lot.
Yes.
And so then you're stepping out, and then so that's when I start. Actually, you've stepped out of that system, so you can actually make some assessments, I guess. Yeah.
You start to compartmentalise things
and
work it all out. And Tom, it has been absolutely fantastic having a chat with you today. I'm sure I've gotten a lot out of spending some time with you. I'm sure everyone else has as well. And so, mate, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, and hopefully it all goes well for you.
Sure.
With that. And I enjoy actually, because I can't stay here and save the planet. I've got to allow others, and I really should. I know I should. It's one of those should things. Put more info online so people can see what we're doing. I just get a bit absorbed in what I do, and it's a bit tricky. So when you guys come along and you help to spread what we're doing, makes it a bit easier for me. And
it's absolute pleasure. Look, your website PermEco has so much information and whatnot there. I'm sure anyone who goes in there will get heaps of stuff out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and I again I'll congratulate Zaia on that because she's the one that does the website.
Good on you, Zaia.
Yeah, and it's another vehicle that we can help people from.
Absolutely.
Same as what our online courses and things like that. So yeah.
Tom Kendall, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Hey everybody, we'll talk to you next time. Cheers.
Thanks everyone.
That was perfect timing.
Is that me? It's an alarm going.
It's an alarm. Couldn't have timed that better. Wow, that was a fantastic chat. Tom is just inspirational. So what he's been doing here at his farm has just been incredible. I'm sure you got a lot out of it. I know I certainly did. Make sure you like, share and subscribe on all the social channels. Make sure you check it out now. If you need any more, go and check out their website too at permeco.org. Looking forward to talking to you next time. Cheers.